Hi Pramod,
Hi, Siddharth.
how's it going?
Excellent. Been at home, quarantined largely, sitting, staying safe, wearing a mask, the usual routine now. How about you?
Wonderful. I've been following the exact same thing. So yeah, basically the whole world's doing that, and hopefully we can get back to normal days soon.
Looking forward to it. It's been more than 6 months for me, working from home, living in a very closed sort of proximity, maintaining all the restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Just miss those golden old days when you travel, when you have time to meet friends, and weekends are much more fun. I
Right.
guess you have got to be responsible first until all of these mellow downs and we have some vaccine or a cure in place. Yeah,
Sure.
for the greater good, taking one for the team, I would say.
Of course. So good thing is football's back.
Oh yes, I can't tell you. Uh, Yesterday was amazing. Some really good games. I'm
Mhm.
sure today would be another set of great matches. I'm really glad the football is back. The folks found a way to restart with all the measures in place. Pretty
Sure.
excited for the season ahead.
Of course, of course. So I have been regretting this day, and that is one of the reasons why we've been postponing it. We are here to talk about Liverpool and Jürgen Klopp, and I am a hardcore United fan, so this is going to be tough.
I see. I see. All right. I know.
Yeah. So great stuff going on with Liverpool last 2 3 years. Um, since when have you been a fan?
Well, you just hit the nail on the head, I'd say.
Mhm.
It's a long story. It goes back to 1998. I was just what an 8-year-old kid,
Right.
and back in the day, it was all about the national television here in India, and they
Sure.
used to only broadcast these select games, even from the Football World Cup.
Right.
And I distinctly remember England playing Argentina
Mm-hmm.
and an 18-year-old Michael Owen scoring a blinder, an amazing, going past a few players and scoring an amazing goal. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like really influenced by this young kid, playing so well, so agile, so wonderful when it came to finishing. I thought, no, this is a guy I should follow. So I started following Michael Owen. I just found out that he plays for a club called Liverpool. And
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, there's no English Premier League telecast on the national television in India. So
Right.
it was almost all about just opening the last but one page of the newspaper. You'd have a very small column after on a Monday publishing all the English Premier League scores and goal scorers, and you're just
Right.
following Liverpool there. So the
Mm-hmm.
first couple of years were there. The Y2K revolution, which is the year 2000, brought in cable television to my place.
Right.
And then Liverpool almost played that quintuple season where they won all the cups. And my
Mm-hmm.
journey actually began from there. And then it's just been onward and upward when it comes to passion and following Liverpool Football Club.
Sure. Sure. So yeah, I mean, I remember. I mean, I was like really young then, back in 2000, and still I heard. I mean, Michael Owen was a beast back then. Like he was really popular all over India.
Oh, he was really popular in India, then across the world. He became the Young Player of the Year, switched to Real Madrid, got a lot of global recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time Michael Owen he went to Real Madrid, there was heartbreak. And then
Sure.
I found my sports hero. I found Steven Gerrard coming in,
Right.
and then he's been one of the greatest sports influences in my life. I've been a sports aficionado for a while. I remember, even back in the day, I used to follow tennis. So the earliest tennis game I remember that I followed was Leander Pace beating Pete Sampras. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Okay.
beating Andre Agassi, I guess, in the 1996 Olympics.
Right.
Was it Pete Sampras? I guess, yeah. So it was amazing. That's where I distinctly remembered watching sports for the first time, following hockey back then in the Olympics, tennis because Leander Pace did it.
Sure.
Then it was F1 with Michael Schumacher being
Mm-hmm.
the all-time greats, following them. Steven Gerrard gave me hope for football. Being a Mumbaikar, Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul
Right.
Dravid, cricket. So I'm just another the guy next door, very passionate about sports, the one who reads the newspaper from the back pages, and that's me.
Sure.
And I start from there, the sports section, that is.
Sure.
So yeah, that's really my journey with sports. I had a good fortune of representing schools, colleges in volleyball, cricket. Played a decent degree of football at university.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been me. Never a sports person of a distinguished acclaim, but avid sports follower. And I've tried to live by what the values that sports brings in anybody's life who practices it. So
Of
yeah,
course.
that's me.
Of course. So yeah, I mean, as long as you've played, different sports, you will have a pretty good understanding of what it is all about, right? I mean, regardless of if you've played, for your school or you've played at the national level, because you get that feeling of competition, so you know what goes behind winning and what is actually required, right?
I would dare say yes. The magnitude and the amplitude of emotion exponentially increases when you higher stakes are in
Sure.
place, when you're playing at a national level for your country, maybe for a top professional side, but the flavor of emotion remains the same.
Right.
So even if you're competing against a good set of friends and you're really a sportsman,
Right.
you can live those emotions of hard work, of victory, of learning through losses. So I can agree there. Yes, I have lived through a lot of those emotions
Of course.
back in the day.
Of course. So I can give you an instance where I was in Chennai, and back when I was a kid, and it was raining heavily, and we were playing a football match on the beach, and
Uh-huh.
we suddenly decided that it's going to be a golden goal, right? And our team, I mean, I gave the assist, and a friend of mine, he scored, and then the emotions, when he scored the goal was unmatched. So yeah, sports is incredible, football is incredible, and it's great that you've played so much.
I'm sure, and Siddharth, as you said, this stays with you. I mean, this is a lifelong memory, and every time you think of this, there would be a part of your mind which will relive that emotion and make you feel really good. So I completely agree with you there.
Sure. So okay, we want to discuss a bit about Jürgen Klopp.
Jürgen
Absolutely
Klopp.
incredible work done by him at Borussia Dortmund and at Liverpool. Talk to me about him.
Before Borussia and Liverpool, it was Mainz. So he was a part of Mainz.
Mm-hmm.
He's just another German guy, someone who's raised in the Black Forest, in his own words.
Sure.
He was a passionate footballer. I remember one of the instances I've read about him. During his school days, Jürgen Klopp admitted to wanting to study medicine. He wanted to be a doctor, if you believe me.
Wow.
And he said no, he believed that he was never smart enough for a medical career. And he was saying that when his professor was handing him the A-level certificates, he said to Klopp that I really hope that things work out for you in football. Otherwise, it's not really looking good for you in the future.
Right.
So I think we are blessed that he wasn't that bright, and instead of choosing a pure medical profession, he came into football. He played for Mainz. He had a pretty decent professional career. Mainz back then. Now you might know Mainz as a first division German football team,
Sure.
top division football team. But back in the day, they weren't. And
Right.
Klopp played for them. And as Klopp was approaching his retirement, they even asked him to take over the player come manager role.
Sure.
And that's where his journey into management began.
Right.
I also remember Klopp always citing a couple of coaches who have inspired him. So Wolfgang Frank he says has been one of his managerial influences.
Mm-hmm.
Wolfgang Frank was the manager of Mainz during Klopp's playing days.
Okay.
And I think he says that it's from Mr. Frank that he learned the importance of emotions in football matches. which I'm sure you've seen him prioritize when he's
Sure.
on the touchline, shouting at players, being
Right.
really emotional. So he says he's inherited not that part, and he's really learned it from his erstwhile coach.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Another coach that he's really looked up to is Arrigo Sacchi. Maybe people who are one generation above us and are football enthusiasts will remember Arrigo Sacchi as an legendary AC Milan coach. So
Mm-hmm.
in the 80s, AC Milan were like a legendary team. They were nearing invincibility,
Right.
ruling Europe, ruling the Italian league.
Mm-hmm.
Arrigo Sacchi was the coach in the high intensity football that he played. The tactical nuances that he implemented is something again that Klopp says that he has really looked up to and
Sure.
learned a lot, especially in the initial days of his footballing career.
Right.
Uh, then he did pretty well at Mainz. He brought them up from to the top tier of German football, and
Mm-hmm.
he had a good time there. He discovered his basics of management at Mainz, moved to Borussia, spent 5 seasons there, um, was instrumental in turning a 13th placed Borussia team to finally, in 3 years, they were transformed into German champions, consecutive champions. The year after the second title, they reached the Champions League final, which is the European Cup final in football,
Right.
as a team. And then he had a sort of a not so great season at Dortmund before he shifted to Liverpool. So he's had a decent little journey with football, and is very lovable, very affable kind of a person. You know him. I mean, people who remotely follow football and know about Klopp will know that his confident, his friendliness, his smile enters the room before he does,
Right.
and that's the kind of the likability the man has, the confidence the man has. They love him. Something close to us, apparently, and this is a fun fact I very recently got to know, is that Jürgen Klopp
Mm-hmm.
loves Bollywood.
Oh.
Apparently, in one of his German interviews, he quoted the movie Sholay as
Wow.
being one of his favorite Bollywood movies, and he even said that this one character called Gabbar Singh in Sholay,
Right. Right.
who he feels is a quintessential Indian villain. Uh, Apparently, he also proclaimed love for Big B, Amitabh Bachchan,
Wow.
and he says that he even tries to emulate Big B's hairstyle. Now you can relate to how
Right.
Klopp looks and how Mr. Bachchan. I mean, they have similar, like 6'3" in height, both of them,
Okay.
similar charming personalities.
Right.
So yeah, I think a fun fact though there. I wasn't aware of this till very recently.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting. So, um, talk to us about his leadership style and how it has progressed from his Borussia Dortmund days to the Liverpool days. Has the leadership style been the same, or has he changed it based on the club?
First things I feel, as much as I've read about Klopp, so I really started following Klopp since his Dortmund days.
Sure.
I was aware that there was a manager in Mainz who's like a very good manager, doing really well, young, passionate. Just some notes here and there. I never really studied about him.
Sure.
But when Dortmund actually broke the Bayern bubble by
Mhm.
winning the league, Bayern was relentless otherwise.
Right.
Uh, that's when started noticing there's this guy, and then he went on to do it again, and that's when I started noticing Klopp, his leadership styles. That's from his the Dortmund days. I wouldn't say he has changed. In fact, what may have actually happened is he's rather evolved his style and taken it to another level with Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Dortmund; it was about the same thing. So the first thing that comes to my mind when it comes to Klopp is about respect. I mean, he is a guy who has sincere respect. I have not seen him badmouth. It's a very competitive field. I've not seen him badmouth people, badmouth players, let anyone down with his words. Now, he
Right.
earns respect of his team. He leads by example. And when he does that, he uh, doesn't expect the team to do anything that he wouldn't be prepared to do himself.
Sure.
That's the kind of guy he is.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of the very recent interviews that he had with Liverpool TV, he said that about when asked about his leadership side, he said that I tried everything to be as successful as possible in a way that I live 100% for my boys,
Sure.
with the boys, and what we do for the club.
Right.
And I think that is the kind of leadership he lives by. He gives it 100% to what needs to be done to the boys, and and that's what he expects also in return. But that's something that he goes in with first.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that, "No, as a leader, you cannot be the last one who comes in and first one who goes out. You
Right.
don't always have to be the first one coming in or the last one going out, but
Right.
you have to be an example." So sometimes, if I have to immediately now compare it with now a lot of leadership books, leadership lessons that go around in the corporate world, when they say, you got to be the first one to jump into the training room,
Sure.
you got to be the last one to leave, you got to be the first one to the office, last one out of it.
Of course.
He says it's not necessary. You cannot always be that guy, but you
Right.
got to set an example nevertheless.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's very realistic, even though he sets certain standards by giving in his all, setting up an example for the team, and that's something that makes him very real life like, and not someone out of a book saying these are the top 2 things you got to do.
Right.
And hence, being that relatable, someone I can easily emulate even in my real life, because it's pretty doable.
Sure.
It's nothing crazy. The other thing that really stands out for Jürgen Klopp is the fact that he believes in the team. In fact, in one of these interviews, the Liverpool assistant manager very recently said that Jürgen Klopp creates a family. He always says that there's only 30% tactics in team building and 70% family. You
Mm-hmm.
have to build in that camaraderie within the team,
Right.
and that's something that he's always believed in. I remember an example where when the Liverpool left back, who's been very successful, came in, Robertson.
Right.
He Robertson did not knew that someone from the staff was expecting to be a father very soon,
Mm-hmm.
in a casual conversation, and apparently he was
Right.
pretty pissed off at the guy. He was like,
Right.
how can you not know? I know that football is important, the club's important, but this is a guy that you work with day in, day out. And for him, the most important thing in his life right now is the baby. And you
Right.
should know about it because you're working with someone. And it's like a family.
Right.
So I guess that is the kind of an attitude he tries to bring within the team. I have even I have heard interviews where he has said that, no, we want to win for the team, for the city. We want to win for Carol and Caroline. And you would ask me, who's Carol and Caroline?
Mm-hmm.
Carol and Caroline are 260 plus ladies who head the Liverpool kitchens
Ah.
that feeds the players. It's funny for someone to quote them. I mean, when was the last time you saw a high profile coach speaking about the kitchen stuff?
Sure.
But he wants to build that atmosphere, that attitude in the players that we all are a single family, the city included.
Right.
And to win for them. We don't just go out there and play for ourselves. We play for the team, we play for the staff, we play for the city, and we play for every single soul who may have invested even a tiny bit of their happiness
Mm-hmm.
into seeing us win.
Right.
And that's really amazing to end up achieving that. It's fantastic. And definitely, and this is not the end of it. I could go on, and maybe we could end up writing a book at the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But these are some immediate and striking features about Klopp that have really inspired me personally.
Sure. Sure. So when he came in at Liverpool, they went doing really well. So how is he able to go about setting, targets and goals? Obviously, it couldn't have been that he decided that we go for the Champions League immediately, right? So how is he able to, set those targets and goals at a really, structured way?
I'm glad that you asked this. There's a quick backstory to this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this was what 2015, I guess, when Klopp came to Liverpool,
Right.
and with these a bunch of college friends of mine, also very passionate Liverpool fans. And I recollect that when we knew that Jürgen Klopp is coming to Liverpool finally, though nothing's been officially announced, but there are a lot of rumors and some
Right.
trusted journos have tweeted about it.
Right.
Uh, we were tracking his flight to Liverpool. There was a rumor that this guy is coming in, and there's this huge forum, a group of fans across the world tracking a flight which potentially has Klopp sitting on it, and it's going to land at the John Lennon International Airport in Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
And then the flight's delayed, it's circling, and there's just so much drama and suspense to finally Klopp being unveiled as the Liverpool manager. I still remember him wearing that black suit of his,
Yeah.
looking dapper in that suit,
Right.
a tall German smiling guy coming in.
Right.
And Siddharth, you and I know this. One of the most patent questions that are always asked, even when we interview uh, at the corporates today, is, why should we hire you? Or
Right.
what would you do next 3 years? Where do you see
Right.
yourself? And we are very tempted to see, I'm going to change the world in the next 3 years.
Right.
I'm going to take our company to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And to a naked eye, they seem to be very populist kind of an answers.
Sure.
Someone who looks at these at the face of it. And in the world of football, it's no different. At the highest level, the stakes are high. And
Right.
on that interview, I was expecting Klopp to say, I'm going to change the team. So because I associated him with being a very positive person.
Right.
So a positive guy would definitely come in and say, I'm going to change the team.
Sure.
But you know what he did? What Klopp did, he said something, he did a couple of things which really stood out for me. Number one, he completely disassociated himself from being anyone special.
Sure.
When asked by a journalist, saying Jose Mourinho calls himself the special one, so what does that make you?
Right.
He said, I am the normal one.
Yeah, I remember
And
that. Yeah.
he said, I'm the normal one. And he first of all, he disassociated himself from being, because he is not a man of words, he's a man of action.
Right.
So he'd rather want to put in the hard work to ensure that over a period of time, we build a team rather than having false expectations. Because
Sure.
Liverpool fans are always demanding, you follow United. You know that for a fact that back in the day for Liverpool, it was always next year is going to be ours.
Sure.
And that jinx had to be broken. So he said it's going to take time. But something else that he did was really stood out, and now that's in line with what's demanded even in today's competitive world, is he set a SMART target. So you know what SMART stands for, right?
Right.
So SMART is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound.
Mm-hmm.
That's SMART.
Right.
And what did he set as a SMART goal? He said 4 years from now, I think that we will at least have one title.
Right.
Or else I'll go and manage in Switzerland. That was the funny part of it though.
Right.
But he set himself a smart target and a very realistic target. He knew that Liverpool had Fabio Borini and Mario Balotelli up front. Okay. All right. It would need some time.
Sure.
It would need a lot of effort.
Right.
But to begin with, he had to be very realistic. And when he was that realistic, people loved his honesty. Everyone knew that, yeah, Liverpool will take time. And he set that expectation. Fast forward 2019, Liverpool won the Champions League 4 years later. It took them 4 years, not that that was their first shot at winning something.
Right.
They lost finals along the way. They lost titles along the way. But it took him 4 years. But the guy came in, he did his research. And when he was presented, or when he was given that first opportunity to set a target, he was very specific. He had measured what it would take to reach where he wanted to. He said something which was attainable and not just something out in the thin air, trying to, as they say, building castles in thin air. It was not that. It was very realistic. To anyone who heard it knew this is really possible, and it was time bound. So he gave 4 years. And as a leader, whenever we set targets, even in our personal lives, it's very important for us to introspect, be realistic, set targets which are, after measuring what it takes to reach there, and eventually put a time to it. I mean, this is by the time we want to reach here. And if we do that as the first step, everything else can be sequenced out to reach there. And that's something that Klopp showed right in that first press conference, which I'm never going to forget, because it did have a wonderful backstory associated with it. Yeah. So that's Klopp, that's someone who sets targets for the team. That's the person who came in, and that was his first impression in setting a target for the team. Now, this is the big picture, Siddharth. To quickly tell you, in short, what his day-to-day target setting is. he is a kind of a guy who believes that to achieve something big, you got to focus on the small.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to work on the small things. He's going to take, even in last year, if you notice this, Liverpool were runaway title leaders and winners.
Right.
Uh, Throughout the season, even when it was evident that actually no one's going to catch up with them,
Right.
the narrative that the entire team, bar none, gave that we're just taking one game at a time. We're not thinking about the title,
Right.
and that was something which wasn't made up. It wasn't something that they were trained by the media professionals to say out there to the journalists.
Yeah.
It was a mentality, an attitude that Klopp had ingrained in the players' minds.
Right.
You got to achieve the big, but you focus on the small, one game at a time. As they say, right? As Peter Kravitz, who's Liverpool's assistant coach, said in an interview with Klopp, that you truly never lose. You either win or you learn.
Right.
So I think that is a mentality that the team has taken ahead under Klopp.
Definitely. Definitely. So, you know, Mo Salah flopped at Chelsea. A few other players. How how was he able to transform some of them? Like such big improvements. I guess Mo Salah won the Player of the Year.
Yes,
Right.
in his first, he had a biblical first season,
Yeah.
but yeah, he won the Player of the Year. Then yes, he did.
How was he able to do that? Transform these players.
In one of the again, Klopp has been a very smart guy in man management. I think one of the things that people really praise him for is man management.
Mm-hmm.
And Klopp famously once said that when he comes, so ideally when you as a leader go to any new place, you want to impose your mentality,
Yeah.
the way you work. You want to set your standards. But there's something really interesting that Klopp said once. He said that when I go to a new place, now imagine this Klopp. He has a personality of his own. He's so he's overpowering, overwhelming as a person, very convincing, dynamic.
Right.
It's very hard to say no to such people. So it's very easy for him to go out there and impose his playing style and mentality. But what he said was whenever he goes to a new place, now this guy, he said, I just observe players. My
Mm-hmm.
initial days are spent only in observing people. I want to truly understand that if these guys are given a freedom to express themselves, especially during training to begin with, what are the things that they're truly gifted and good at? And what are the things that can be improved? Because by not putting them under any leash, you can observe them in their truest forms, all of these players. And once he has all these notes about the players, now he can sit down and say, now if these guys have to align to how I play, these are the adjustments that need to be made. So now he's very clear as to how to approach his players and what's the give and take that's associated with fitting each and every player to his playing system. So for example, when he came in, he realized that the likes of say Mo Salah, okay,
Mm-hmm.
had a great potential. He had a great skill set. He was doing amazingly well at Roma. He had a wonderful season at Roma as well before coming to Liverpool. He had scored 19 plus goals, I remember. Uh, what the player lacked back in the day when he played for Chelsea was maybe the physical intensity of the league.
Mm-hmm.
Why he thrived in Italy? Italy is a very technical league. If you look at Italy, the tactical nuances in Italy are really amazing. Okay, but it is not as intense as English football. So what he realized that Mo Salah had the tactical game about him. He was a very intelligent player. His runs, his skills were amazing. He had very good technique. What he lacked was physical intensity. So the first year when Salah came in, he only focused on turning Salah into a beast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he worked on the physical conditioning of the player. He improved the miles per game that the player ran.
Right.
And by doing so, he worked on one particular skill set that he had observed that Salah could improve. But at the same time, if you can recollect the first season Salah played at Liverpool, he was given a free hand. Definitely Klopp is a kind of a guy who believes in tough pressing, so you'd expect even their attacking players to come back and defend, which
Right.
Salah did, but he wasn't really great at it. And
Right.
he never even forced Salah to do it. He set an expectation, but he let him be.
Right.
And that brought out the 44 goals in the first season.
Mm-hmm.
In the seasons that followed later, you would say Salah was called a one-season wonder. Now he is like into his fourth season, and now he's almost like a fourth-time one-season wonder.
Right.
But what I've noticed now about Mo Salah is with his increasing association with Klopp and Liverpool over the period of years, he has become a much more team player. Though people still call him selfish, but I've seen him come back, defend for the team, run more across the pitch, which may have compromised his sheer number of goals, but
Right.
has exponentially increased his contribution to the team.
Sure.
So that is how I think Klopp works with Salah's one example. We've found some other players too. I mean, we've found someone like Dejan Lovren, who was a defender.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's a very error-prone defender back in the day. Okay, but he found that in Dejan Lovren there was a leader. There was a guy who never wanted to lose to anybody.
Right.
They say that one of the reasons why someone like a Dejan Lovren makes a lot of defensive mistakes is because he doesn't even want to lose to a striker when it comes to a challenge. So he
Right.
goes in very early, very prematurely, a lot of times, and gets beaten. And
Right.
people work around his score and makes mistakes. But he knew that there was a leader about him, and he was a very good presence in the room of players.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kept evolved him into a player who played an amazing part. Now, Dejan Lovren in a single season played the Champions League final and the World Cup final,
Right.
being the core defender for the team.
Right.
So he transformed someone who was skilled, a leader, but error prone into someone who was a consistent leader and who played at the topmost level that season. So he has that ability to pick out the best characteristics of a player, use them, bring them to the fore, and simultaneously work on things that need improvement. So I think that is something that Klopp really manages. In fact, if you see a lot of these new guys also coming in, Trent Alexander-Arnold,
Yeah.
new guy coming in, just giving him that confidence. Curtis Jones is one of the academy products from the last season. Harvey Elliott is a 17-year-old kid. Nico Williams, who's also a right back defender, that is. Uh, what Klopp always, I think, believes in, and that every player would be treated equally. So, Mo Salah or a Curtis Jones get the same amount of importance in the dressing room.
Sure.
So for Curtis Jones, it's nothing to fear, and for Mo Salah, there is nothing that he needs to compromise just to accommodate someone. But at the same time, the likes of Curtis Jones will know that the kind of effort, dedication Salah puts in every day in training, even I now need to live up to that standard because I get no different treatment.
Right.
So I think it's a lot of man management skills at play there, but they're creating that environment of trust, Siddharth, I guess, the trust, the passion towards a common goal helps build great players. You are a United fan, okay, and I'll actually call upon you to give me a very honest opinion that when you look at Liverpool, and you're going to be very critical because you're a United fan,
Mm-hmm.
critical to the point tipping to bias,
Mm-hmm.
but you tell me that no, it's a good team, and maybe you would pick. Maybe I'd take a Virgil van Dijk in my team, or maybe I'd take a Sadio Mane, or maybe an Alisson. But
Right.
I guess the other players are pretty okay. I mean, they're good players, but they're not really legends or great players
Mm-hmm.
who would go on an unbeaten streak,
Mm-hmm.
right? You'd say that. But
I
this is
I
where
had Trent and Robertson do it as well. I mean, Trent, incredible. Trent has been incredible.
Trent's been incredible last season.
Yep.
Maybe before that, and you'd have only a couple of people who'd bring in, who you would say, okay, they are good enough to be called
Right.
great players or maybe borderline legends.
Yeah.
Uh, the trick here, and something that Klopp believes, and even I have now started to try and follow that in my life, is the fact that you don't really need legends to win you games or win you trophies. You don't just need big players. You just need people who believe in you, who believe in the cause. And as a team, as they say, right, the whole should be greater than the sum of its parts.
Right.
So even if you have like really good players and everyone really believes and gives it your best, their best to the cause, to the team, to that common goal, their output can turn out to be legendary. You may not have a single Premier League legend, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You may not have even a single player. You will have very good players, maybe no legends,
Right.
but it doesn't really matter as long as the team ends up being world class. If you look at Borussia Dortmund, enough Liverpool. You go back to Borussia Dortmund. But he's the guy who made players like Mario Götze, who eventually scored the winning World Cup goal for Germany. He
Right.
made players like Marco Reus. Marco Reus still with Dortmund, loyal. He made Robert Lewandowski,
Right.
who is in running now to take the Ballon d'Or
Mhm.
this year.
Yeah.
But these are the players who he just discovered from leagues, gave them ample confidence, and turned them into world beaters.
Right. Right.
And he does that with guys, and you have these examples, ample of these examples. I mean, Matt Hummels, Subotic, and these are these guys who've come from the Jürgen Klopp school of thought.
Mm.
Shinji Kagawa, the United player,
Right. Right. Right.
you know him.
Yeah.
He's made a Klopp product, Mkhitaryan, Henrik Mkhitaryan,
Yeah.
again a Klopp product from Dortmund. So yeah, I mean he's done that with so many players.
Yeah. Um, what many people forget is that, I mean, they remember and they probably think that, oh, he had Leva and he had Mickey and all these players, and that is why they were able to win the Bundesliga or something like that. But then they don't realize that Jurgen Klopp is the one who made these players.
Gundogan, Ilkay Gundogan.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
I would say that the players were always talented, but nobody knew them for what they were capable of.
Yeah.
I mean, we are just noticing Lewandowski now because he's been scoring goals for fun last season. A lot of people are, but some others, like who are even football follows to a decent degree, know that Lewandowski from his later years at Dortmund and all his years at Bayern has been top notch, world class to say the least.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who picked him up from the lower leagues and brought him and gave him that confidence, exposure, and the tactical know-how to compete at the highest level
Yeah.
and compete and deliver. And that's something that just makes me wonder. I mean, likes of Divock Origi,
Hmm.
okay, a very above average player, not overrated, very passionate, very hardworking. But then this lad comes in and he puts in all of those important goals whenever he's called for. And he's a young player, a lot of passion. But at the highest stage, this guy still delivers. And you would call him an okayish player. You wouldn't call him the best that you've seen, or even in the top 5 percentile of strikers in the world. But then he gets you that Merseyside late winner at Everton. He gets you that Champions League final goal. He gets you that crucial first goal against Barcelona in the reverse Champions League tie. Nothing short of a legend, eh?
Yeah.
So that's what he does, with players. Not try to bring the best out of them. That's some superb leadership out there.
Definitely. I mean, I remember when Coutinho left, I didn't give Liverpool a chance, at any of the, forget about the Premier League. I didn't give them a chance with the Champions League. And yeah, your point is rightly made. Like, he was able to create these, let's say, probably average to above average players to absolute, world champions.
I agree. And
Oh,
more closer to home, Siddharth. Even if you look at the likes of Mahendra Singh Dhoni, he's been one of the leaders that we all look up to in India.
yeah,
Even if you look at this guy, a lot of these players who won him the World Cup, maybe the 2007 T20 World Cup, the 2013 Champions Trophy, the 2011 World Cup, a
right.
lot of the players there were really good players, but not legends. I mean, weren't players who would single-handedly win it for you.
Yeah,
But then they were capable of creating those moments, and collectively, each of the players contributing to those moments made the team invincible.
yeah.
And that is something that Klopp has done. You don't really need world beaters. You may have one or two world beaters maybe as the core of your team,
Hmm.
but the others really create those moments for you which define an output which is world class and consistent.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, when thinking of this, I always take the example of, RCB and RCB and Rajasthan Royals, and Royals have been able to win an IPL, and RCB, with the star power that they've always had, haven't been able to pick up even one. So uh, definitely, I mean, these things.
And who was the one of the finds of the first season with Rajasthan Royals? A certain Sir Jadeja, a young Sir Jadeja,
Right.
who Shane Warne brought up as a leader.
Right.
Made him perform at the highest level. So fair
Right.
point, and I really agree with this.
So, um, has you used technology as part of this process in any way or form?
Oh, technology. So that now with the advent of a lot of biomedical advancements that have happened, there is a lot of technology to use player performance monitoring,
Mm-hmm.
conditioning, treatments, surgery, and that's something which is pretty routine. What Liverpool has done differently is something that I want to speak about is data-driven improvement. Now,
Okay.
data is the new gold, they say, in the world of IT, and Liverpool have used data in one of the most amazing manners possible to ensure that they have hit success consistently over the last couple of years. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So this the idea of this spawns back uh, to early 2000s with Boston Red Sox. Now, why I bring up Boston Red Sox here is because Fenway Group, which owns Liverpool,
Mm-hmm.
also owns the Boston Red Sox, which is a baseball team.
Right.
Back in the day, what Boston Red Sox did was, if you've heard of this
Money.
concept called Moneyball.
Right. 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 I've seen the movie.
Yes. So the thesis of Moneyball is pretty simple. Now it's using statistical analysis
Mm-hmm.
and to find that small market teams can compete by buying assets that are undervalued by other teams and selling assets that are overvalued by other teams.
Sure.
I'll repeat. Small market teams compete by buying assets undervalued by other teams and selling ones overvalued by other teams. And to give you the best example there, Philippe Coutinho, someone who you brought up earlier in the conversation.
Right.
So Philippe Coutinho, we were a mid-market team, not like the top two, top three, top five in the world back in the day when Klopp arrived.
Right.
And he saw that someone like a Barcelona, which is like a big team, they were sincerely overvaluing Coutinho. Willing to play 140 million quid is crazy for any player. Okay, and he sold him. And what he did was he invested. So he brought in Van Dijk, he brought in Allison, which were big money signings, but he also invested in smart buys. He has also got the likes of Mo Salah back in the day. He has gotten Sadio Mane for 30 million, which is like peanuts when you look at the kind of player he has turned out to be.
Sure.
Fabinho, who's been one of the finds last season, has been brought in for again comparatively a very cheap price. But for me, the signing which epitomizes the use of Moneyball at Liverpool is Robertson.
Ah.
Now, this guy is gotten from 8 million from Hull City.
Mm-hmm.
He was undervalued, relegated. I mean, relegated team and a defender of a relegated team who would want him.
Sure.
Okay. But he got him from 8 million, and just look at the kind of player he has been. For me, now he's one of the top three left backs in the world.
Sure.
And he's amazing. And he epitomizes all that. And where does this come from? It comes from a lot of data crunching. You need to build a team. You need to look at a lot of statistical data. You need to look at a lot of scouting data. So to give you some context, uh, Klopp actually has a well-educated group of researchers as part of the backroom staff. So I remember there's one guy called Ian Graham, who's the club's research head, director of the club's research division. Now, this guy is a doctor in theoretical physics.
Oh.
So this guy's Graham's analysis on scouting data led to transfers of Mohamed Salah and Naby Keita to Liverpool.
Ooh.
The decision and the amount of money to be offered to these guys were based on the data that he crunched.
Mm-hmm.
There is another guy, uh, Tim Woskett. He's actually an astrophysicist, and he's also a statistical researcher. And he's tasked with finding ways to optimize, the time spent on the pitch, the passes the tackles, the throw-ins are analyzed minutely in a mathematical manner to ensure that all of this is put in place. And that is something that again Klopp does. In fact, to give you one of the outcome of Tim Waskett's findings is Liverpool realized that in the year 2017, an analysis made the team realize that Liverpool was losing a lot of possession on throw-ins. You know that throw-ins, right? When the ball goes out of play, you have a throw-in in football. Now, it's a very minute part, right? Liverpool ended up hiring a coach for throw-ins. I mean, have you heard of this before, Siddharth?
Never.
Throw-in coach.
Sounds ridiculous.
Throw-in coach. There is a guy called Thomas Gronmark, who is Liverpool's throw-in consultant coach. Thomas Gronmark made Liverpool the second best team in Europe when it comes to retaining the ball from throw-ins.
Okay.
And that, according to Waskett's analysis, in the succeeding year, vastly improved the team's conversion and opportunity creation. And now we are talking about the year 18-19. Remember 18-19, where Liverpool were banging in goals for fun. Even in the Champions League, Liverpool were the highest scoring team, scoring more than together almost 40 odd goals that season. Now, all of that came down to a very minute aspect called throw-in, which you realize. You see, right? Focusing on the small to achieve the big.
Right.
So data, found something out, fixed it. There's another guy William Spearman, this guy, he works on guaranteeing the pitch control. He's also a maths and physics researcher. So when it comes to passes, completion, he works on that. Then he has had a range of sports nutritionists hired. So we have nutritionists at Liverpool. There are physiotherapists, masseurs, the usual rehab coaches. So I think these are the things that you get in from the data. The data of injuries, the data of statistics, performance statistics, health statistics, conditioning. And when you look at the data, arrive at certain conclusions, you know that the areas which need to be fixed, areas that need addressing, and then you get in people to address those. So even if it means hiring new staff, someone would go out of the way to hire people. There have been talks about also Liverpool largely engaging people to condition the players, sports psychologists to condition the players, having frequent conversations. So you have seen the likes of, say, Oxlade-Chamberlain, who had as a career-threatening injury. He was doing really well at the peak of it as a career-threatening injury. Comebacks next season like nothing happened. Picks up from where he left and is doing equally well now. And when footballers get injured, and you would know this, Siddharth, because you've been a national player yourself, injuries are a part of a sportsman's life. But they have a severe psychological impact. Because when you get injured, you never know whether you're going to be as good as you were before you got injured. You got to wait. You got to have patience. You have to believe that things are going to be great. And collectively, even though people have had career-threatening injuries, say Oxlade-Chamberlain, say Jordan Henderson has had some critical injuries, these guys have come back stronger. And one of the reasons for doing that is, the team has looked at these players, analyzed their personality, look at the data associated with that, and shown them the figures and shown them their own improvement along the way of recovery. So this is something that really makes Klopp a very good problem solver, data-driven problem solver.
Right.
So something.
Yeah. You mentioned the use of sports psychologists, for Ox and a few other players. Do you think psychological safety has been used in this team? Like, Klopp really protects his players, right? I mean, as compared to, let's say, an extreme is probably Jose Mourinho or, a few other managers.
Fair point. I think I'm glad that you bring this up, Siddharth, because this again is an opportunity to clear some myths associated with psychological safety. So it's very simple to assume that psychological safety could be about being nice and cheerful to everyone.
Right.
It's always sugarcoating issues to people, and making someone not feel threatened or unsafe by doing that.
Right.
So psychological safety is not that. Okay. Instead, I would say it's psychological safety is all about giving candid feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Be and no, not be punishing people or humiliating someone for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes.
Right.
Okay. And by doing that, what it entails the players to do, it entails any team that you work in to do, is to be able to make mistakes and openly admit to them and learn from them.
Right.
Okay. One a holistic example could be the initial days of Klopp. Liverpool was like how Liverpool played yesterday in the 4-3 win against Leeds. Defensively shambles, and it was all about who scores more number of goals.
Yeah.
Okay, very indisciplined. Over a period of years, we developed the team into a very tight-knit defensive unit. So by making mistakes is when the players have learned. So he's not derided the defense. Even yesterday, if you saw, he never derided anyone, but inside, I'm sure the team got a very candid feedback. Okay.
Right.
And there have been a lot of researches conducted about this psychological safety factor, Siddharth. And what the researchers have primarily found is that teams that made more mistakes, okay, and this is a very interesting finding of the research, that the teams that made more mistakes were counterintuitively more successful than other teams.
Mm-hmm.
And you would wonder why. I mean, isn't it obvious that if you make more mistakes, like more number of mistakes, you are entitled to be a loser? You're not entitled to be successful, less probable to be successful. But this why these teams end up being more successful is because now the team members are encouraged to take more risks.
Sure.
When you're encouraged to take more risks, because you know that even if you make a mistake and go out there, admit it and learn next time not do it. And when you take more risks, it encourages greater creativity
Right.
and greater innovation in your thought, in your problem solving. And when there is greater creativity and innovation in your thought process, it frequently leads to game changing moments.
Right.
And you want to, I mean, I don't even need to give you an example, but I just quote the obvious nevertheless.
Mm-hmm.
Trent Alexander Arnold.
Yeah.
You playing Barcelona, you
Mm-hmm.
lost 3-0 at their home game. You come back here and somehow your entire team has fought to get it back to 3-3.
Right.
And then there comes a corner and you come up with the most genius of ideas to just play it quickly
Right.
when the entire Barcelona defense was not looking, and it leads to a goal.
Right.
How did a 19-year-old find the psychological safety to even think, forget execute, even think that this was possible?
Right.
So that's something that Klopp has done. And had he made a mockery of that corner, Klopp would have candidly told him that
Right.
in the room, in the players' dressing room, post the game, that you missed a good opportunity. The set piece is an opportunity to score. But people are open to doing that. They're open to the probability of making a mistake. And as Klopp has always said, right, football is a game and you have to play it with freedom. Players will make the right decisions when they have confidence. And when they don't have it, then they will feel that the next pass needs to be a goal.
Of course.
Or now we are under pressure and we need to force something.
Of course. Yeah.
And I think this is why psychological safety, as you rightly pointed out, has been a game changer in Klopp's era of management, because it has given all of the players the confidence to try out. So you need to just stick to what you're doing as a player, just keep persevering, and any chance that you miss is not a failure. It's information. So you just go back, use it again.
Sure.
And this is something that Klopp has done. And that if there's a chance player miss it, more often than not, if you realize, Klopp would clap at that silly miss or at that mistake that the player makes.
Right.
At least he encourages that intent of innovation, of trying to try something out of the box.
Right.
So that's something that Klopp has really brought into Liverpool as a team. That psychological safety, which has made the team very open and confident. while
Definitely.
playing football.
Definitely. And talking about confidence, man, the number of times they're winning after the 80-minute mark, pulling off wins after the 80-minute mark. Even yesterday, like, wow. What is
There is this one guy. It's crazy. It's crazy, Siddharth. In fact, this one guy who's irked the most because of this is a certain guy called Pep Guardiola.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last season in one of these interviews, I remember he was asked by a journalist, how do you feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
And fair play to the guy. What he said was, even my son and my daughter ask me this, that all the time, why are this Liverpool team winning in the last minutes?
Right.
And they ask me now, how lucky these guys are.
Right.
And Pep Guardiola then told his kids, and he said, this is also something that I told my players, that that Liverpool, it's lucky if it happens once or twice in your life. But
Mm.
if you do it 10, 12, 13 times,
Right.
okay, then it is not just luck. It is an incredible quality and incredible talent to keep fighting until the end.
Sure.
And something that again Klopp has built. And this is something so that you will relate to, because we are not averse to the phrase called Fergie time.
Right.
So back in the day when Sir Alex was the coach at United,
Mm.
we knew that even if it was 90 plus and there was 3 minutes of stoppage time and United needed a goal to win the game,
Mm.
you as a fan knew that we still have a chance. You were not panicking. You knew, and in fact, even when United were leading by a solitary goal in a crunch match and it was stoppage time, say 5 minutes of stoppage time, till date, Siddharth, I have not seen a team playing with as much confidence, even in a panicky situation during stoppage time, as United. The
Sure.
way they had control of the ball, the composure, like they know how to handle this. That's
Sure.
something that Sir Alex, really drilled into the team's mentality.
Sure.
To give you some figures here, Siddharth, they say that when a team typically wins a Premier League title, they earn almost 1.7 to 2 points by scoring goals 90 minutes onwards,
Mm-hmm.
and almost uh, 4 to 5 points in a season by scoring a goal in 85th minute or later.
Sure.
Okay, these are 4 or 5 points is a huge figure when it comes to the final dynamics.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh, and when under Klopp, okay, Liverpool's record per season has been 3.8 points from goals scored in the 90th minute or later.
Wow.
And as compared to Sir Alex, but Sir Alex has a longer tenure. Sir Alex's average was almost around 1.7 uh,
Mm-hmm.
from goals scored after the 90th minute. Points achieved from goals scored after the 90th minute in a
Right.
season. But that's a longer period of time, so it won't be an apple against orange to compare. But 3.8, and it's evident. You have seen a Divock Origi 96th minute against Everton. You've seen a Sadio Mane. Last season's a game-changing moment from the season was that winner against Aston Villa,
Mm-hmm.
injury time goal, where Liverpool had one of the worst games of the season, and still in the last 4 minutes they managed to score 2 goals and not just draw but win the game.
Right.
Or the 95th minute James Milner penalty against Leicester,
Sure.
or I bring this up as a Liverpool fan, the 85th minute uh, Lallana equalizer against United at Old
Mm-hmm.
Trafford last year. So you had these moments, as Pep Guardiola mentioned, are not lucky moments. You train the team to fight till the end. So unless the game's done, the game isn't really done.
Right.
And as I said, right, psychological safety entails the team to express themselves and make mistakes, even, and not panic. Okay, just play football freely, stick to the tactics, not try to convert every pass into a goal or force things. Then there is a question of trust that the team can do it, and importantly, because they have trust, their belief is exponential, that even if it is the last 1 minute remaining and we need a goal or two, I think we still have a chance.
Sure.
And here, Siddharth, there's a short example, but not really a late winner story, but a story that is one of the standout stories to me. So last year, last but one in 28 last year, right? We lost the semi-final leg to Barcelona. Liverpool lost that leg,
Mm-hmm.
and when the team played really well, but it was a Messi masterclass and a couple of really good goals
Right.
that Barcelona scored, and we lost 3-0. There's a story that Sadio Mane tells, one of the players, that he was chilling in the tub with another guy called Fabinho, who's a player, and he he went to Fabinho and he said that, Genie Wijnaldum tells me that we're going to win this at Anfield
Right.
and we're going to progress to the finals. And Fabinho said, and he asked Fabinho, so do you also believe it? And he said, I think yes, we're going to do it.
Wow.
And so he's like, okay, so that makes three of us. And this is just after that 3-0 humbling at the Nou Camp against one of the potentially the best sides in the world,
Right.
with the best players for sure. And this is just the belief, because the team knows what their target is, and that first match was actually just the midway point. It was there's still this entire game at Anfield to go, and they had that belief, that trust, and beyond the trust, the belief that we still have 90 minutes, which is huge, and we can score. And they ended up winning 4-0,
Right.
which is amazing. So I feel a lot of this, a lot of these qualities that we've spoken for the last half an hour or so have eventually accumulate into the outputs that come through these moments, and
Definitely.
give us these stories to speak about.
Definitely. And that's one of the reasons they've been tagged the mentality monsters.
In fact, when Liverpool actually won against Barcelona is when Klopp came out in an interview and said, like, absolutely mentality monsters is what he said. And I think you're right. Monster may not be taken as the most positive word, but what signifies, what the term mentality monster signifies is you usually have very strong mentalities as a team,
Right.
as players, as individuals. See, football is a team game, and
Right.
it's not an individual sport. You're only, as I say, right, the team is only as strong as the weakest link. So you don't have to leave any. You got to empower everybody, and one mistake can cost a game, and it can come from anybody on a football pitch. Yesterday it came from the Leeds record striker signing, Rodrigo,
Mm-hmm.
but he was in the penalty box, where the opposite penalty box, where he shouldn't be, and he gave away a penalty.
Right.
But mistakes do happen, and it can just ruin the entire moment, all the hard work that you've put in. So
Sure.
that's football for you. Very harsh team game.
Sure.
You slog for, you run miles for 90 minutes, you train hard the entire week, and then this one mistake can ruin it all. But here the idea to be strong enough to move over mistakes and keep improving is something that has made Liverpool the mentality monsters. Last season, Liverpool were genius to win the league by this margin. If you see a lot of these games, Liverpool actually just scraped through them. They
Right.
kept winning at the last moment. The word here was consistent. They
Right.
were very consistent. They just wanted to go out there, next match, win it. And I think consistency wins you leagues. You don't want to win a game 15-0 or 10-0 and then lose the next 5 games. There's no compensation, right? It's
Sure.
about consistency. You've got to keep consistently performing. You've paid what, £100,000 every week. You got to live up to that as a players. And through all of these, through the psychological safety, through the hard work that the coach puts them through the camaraderie, through the fact that the entire team believes that they are one family, they are there for each other, uh, through the fact that any mistake you make would not see the end of you, but it would see the beginning of you as a better player.
Right.
These are things that make you. To judge, the latest example of that was Ryan Brewster, who's a 17, 18-year-old youngster,
Mm-hmm.
uh, missed the decisive penalty in the Community Shield.
Right.
And Liverpool lost the shield to Arsenal in the shootout.
Yeah.
When Arsenal scored the final penalty, one of his fellow youngsters, Curtis Jones, actually kissed Ryan Brewster. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I captured that on camera. So when the moment Arsenal scored the winning penalty, this guy was like hands over his heads and all disappointed. This guy just came in and kissed him and said, "It's all right. We'll
Right.
do it next time." I think that that is a game changer there. you're so strong mentally that next year's going to be our year. Liverpool lost. Jürgen Klopp lost 6 finals in a row, starting with Borussia Dortmund losing the Champions League final, then the German Cup, came to Liverpool, lost the League Cup final, lost the Europa League final, the Champions League final again to Real Madrid, to finally and eventually win the Champions League in 2019.
Right.
6 finals in a row, and eventually. So it's just about belief that if as the first question you asked me was leadership traits, he leads by example. If a guy has lost 6 finals in a row and he comes back strong again and goes on to win maybe the biggest trophy of his career,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it speaks a lot about the person and the leader.
Definitely. Definitely. Um, well, you know, this podcast has been extremely hard, but taking a step back, yeah, definitely. I mean, the learnings you can get from a man like Jurgen is incredible. You know, anyone, I mean, for anyone listening, for corporates, people in organizations, leaders, definitely learning from Jürgen is a must. It has been incredible. Pramod,
It, it
thank
is
you very
it
much.
is it is a must, Siddharth. I
Yeah,
completely agree with you. And as they say, right, we are very mathematically driven in the corporate world with numbers, with probabilities, and we are very analytical in thought. And analysis always gives us a possibility of failure.
sure.
And if we let that failure burden us, we become doubters.
Right.
And as Klopp said, you don't have to be doubters. The first thing that he said in his interview, the first interview ever conducted at Liverpool, he said, the first thing that I'd request all the supporters to turn is from doubters to believers. And if you believe, I think the rest of the road is slightly less bumpy.
Definitely. Definitely. And with that, Pramod, I'll take your leave. Thank you very much for this incredible podcast and, spending your time with us on a Sunday evening, especially.
It's been my pleasure, Siddharth. I mean, speaking about football, speaking about sports to a fellow enthusiast, always makes my day. So thank you for inviting me over, and it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you about a guy I really admire and I look up to. And I'm sure in times to come there are going to be so many new things that come out as nuances from his leadership. Something that I can go back, something a lot of us can go back and try out and emulate in our real lives as well.
For sure. For sure. And yeah, Pramod, where can people get in touch with you? I'm sure people after listening to this may have, questions. They may want to get in touch for whatever reason. How can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Pramod Mohandas. You
Mm.
can find me on my not so active yet active Instagram account, go_pro_mode MODE.
Okay.
And definitely you can connect with me at pramodmohandas8@gmail.com. Anytime you're up for a good little conversation on sports, on Liverpool, feel free to drop me a message. I'd love to do that.
Wonderful. And I'm sure, a lot of probably corporates, people involved in management listening, they may want to, you know, have more of your insights, being able to relate, corporate and management with sports and football. I'm sure they'd want to, have more of your knowledge.
In fact, this works a lot, Siddharth.
Hmm.
I have been a trainer. I do trainings. So I'm a product manager. I'm working in education technology in India. With some very game changing work that we're doing for affordable private schools.
Right.
Apart from that, I've been extremely passionate about public speaking and training, and I do train corporates, social audiences, colleges. I've trained more than 5,000 people in the past 3.5 to 4 years.
Wow.
I do it for passion, always open to a lot of training. And I've picked up a lot of these stories, these nuances, these traits of leadership from Klopp and amalgamated them in a lot of the trainings that I conduct on leadership and communication skills. team building, it works, because something that has worked out in real life and not purely out of a book is something very relatable and something very doable. So you're right there. It does find a lot of alignment to how people think in the real world.
For sure. All right. Thank you, Pramod, and hope to see you again.
Oh, hope you have a great season too. I'm sure Bruno's going to be the man this season.
Hopefully.
So wishing luck to Man United this season as well. And it's wonderful, Siddharth. Lovely. What you're doing with sports podcast is really amazing. And keep doing the good work, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Pramod. Take care.